Hey guys, Dev here, doing another update vlog for you. It's March 1st, and I'm going to go over some changes happening to the channel right now. I'm sure some of you have noticed that there is now a Patreon link on the end slates of our Let's Plays. Yes, we've given into the dark side and started up a Patreon. For those of you who don't know, Patreon is a service where you can incrementally pay your favorite internet content producers. It's sort of become a big thing recently. A lot of mid-sized video producers like the Spoony one and such are using it. It also became a big thing negatively because in Gamergate people discovered that developers and journalists were donating to each other's Patreons. And I'm sure we'll have a whole Indefensible video coming up on that soon. Patreon is different from something like Indiegogo or Kickstarter. Indiegogo, Kickstarter, GoFundMe, those type of things, they're to fund a single project. You know, just a famous and controversial example was Anita Sarkeesian getting a boatload of money to do videos. Now I'm not here to discuss Anita Sarkeesian at all. That's a topic for another video. But basically, her campaign was set up like you give her a total sum of money, she creates a video series, and that model works for a Kickstarter or for an Indiegogo. But Patreon's different. Patreon is an ongoing payment, whereas people produce the content, you pay them in pieces. So, you know, for example, I think Spoony's Patreon is set up so that every time he releases a new review, you're supposed to pay him money, and that exchange happens automatically. He puts up a video, he tells Patreon, they withdraw from the account. Other people's Patreons are set up monthly, and there has been abuse with this. Again, in Gamergate, people have discovered that, you know, there are people like indie game developers who are just raking in money through Patreon monthly on a monthly basis for doing nothing. And we're not going to be like that, because I think anyone who's watched our channel for any amount of time knows we put out 2 videos a day. So our Patreon is going to be a monthly contribution, so that you, if you're so inclined, and we would be very grateful if you were, decide to give us money through Patreon. Every month you'd pay so much, we would put that towards the show, and it makes sense for us because we put out so many videos. The idea of having you pay for every video is kind of absurd, and Patreon even suggests that people who put out consistent content like us go buy a monthly plan, so that's what we're going to do. Lord Cat has done some talking about Patreon recently, where he mentioned that a lot of people who do Patreons set their goals for individual contributors. They set them kind of stupidly, and here's what I'll mean. Like, say you're in, I'm just going to use the Gamergate example again because it's what's on my brain right now. Say you're an indie developer and you have a Patreon, and one of the goals is, okay, if you donate $50 every month, I'll make you an indie game. Okay, great. So let's say I'm going to invest in that person. I invest $50 for 1 month. I get my indie game. And what is my incentive to keep giving $50 every month? That was a one-time reward for a monthly contribution. One-time rewards work for things like Kickstarter, wherein you're backing an entire project and you get a reward from the project, along with the project itself. But it doesn't work for an ongoing payment like Patreon. Which is why we've actually we've kind of gone back and forth with the idea of, should we do a Kickstarter or something like that versus should we do a Patreon? We ultimately decided to go with Patreon because we're not funding a new project per se. You know, our channel's already going. The channel would continue to go even without the money, though it would probably go worse, but it would continue to go. It's not like with a Kickstarter where if a Kickstarter fails, a project stops. Our channel, even if this Patreon idea completely falls apart on us, we're still going to keep making stuff on our channel. So here's how our Patreon is going to work. We're coming up with a mechanism that will allow people to view the daily videos, which is the Let's Play stuff, earlier. So if you were to contribute not a large amount, probably some small amount like $10 or something, a month, you could see the videos during that month, probably about a week ahead of schedule, a week earlier than everyone else. And that probably sounds pretty weak, admittedly. But here's the thing, every other good alternative we thought of would have been one-time rewards, which don't fit with a Patreon. Like if you wanted to donate, say, $50 a month and we do an anime review for you, okay, after you do your review, you know, why would you keep donating $50? You know, it's kind of ridiculous. We do have a separate system set up where if you want to donate a DVD copy of an anime, then we will do a review of that for you. And that's outside of Patreon. But that is really the only goal we've thought of, and because we don't expect to get admittedly much money from this, so it's a small goal for a small Patreon. I think it fits. It is something that is ongoing and somewhat substantive, so you would get your $10 worth at least if you like our stuff and want to see it sooner. And I will promise you that whenever we get money from Patreon and decide to spend that money on something, it will be towards the show. We do plan to buy new equipment, to buy some hardware, maybe to buy games or anime to use on the show, props, lighting, you know, costumes. And anytime we buy something with your money, we will publicly post the receipt so you can see exactly where it's going. There will be more details in the Patreon to come. We're hoping to have it set up by April so that April is when the monthly rewards will start rolling out, so in 1 month. And with any luck, we'll get enough money out of it that we could expand the program, maybe offer some different rewards. We do also want to have total sum rewards where if we manage to get, say, X amount of dollars in total, we could do a certain project. Like, I know our ultimate goal for this channel is the following: 2 Let's Play videos daily, 1 indefensible Gamergate video weekly, 2 anime reviews monthly, and then on top of all that, really anything else that we could throw in. Like if you wanted to like go see a movie and do a vlog about it, we could do that. If I wanted to finally pick up the slack on doing the Pokemon retrospective, I definitely want to do that. And I mean, we're gonna try to do that whether we get paid from you guys or not. Like, this is no pressure. We're gonna try. We've been trying for a while. But the money would help. We could buy things that we're missing and so on and so forth. But I mean, of course, don't feel obligated. Don't feel obligated. We're a fucking tiny internet show. But it would help us with those goals. It would be appreciated. You would get at least the meager rewards that we could offer, and it would all go towards the show, and you'd see proof of that. Now, on the topic of the end slate, when we put the Patreon link into the end slate, we took out the Blip TV link. And I'm going to go over just what's going on there. I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but basically Blip TV is closing its doors. And there was a time in which, this was back in 2009, 2008, when actually YouTube didn't make YouTubers any money. The money was on Blip TV. And if you could get on Blip TV, and then even better, get on a conglomerate site, the big one back then was that guy with the glasses, you could actually make serious internet money. Because YouTube back then, in 2009, was considered just a place to kind of build an audience but not really make money off the audience. You had to build a YouTube audience, then get accepted on Blip TV, even better, get accepted on one of these sites, and then, because Blip paid out significantly more than YouTube. And we got lucky. You know, right during Blip's heyday, August 2009, we got on Blip TV. And we started posting our anime reviews on Blip TV, and they started actually getting decent hits and getting money. And for a good while there, we actually had a bigger following on Blip than we did on YouTube. But then I think in like 2012 or something, Maker, the YouTube studio, the network, bought Blip, and it's kind of gone downhill since then. They started purging people from Blip so that like content producers were kicked off. Usually because they didn't meet Blip's standards of quality. Luckily we stayed on. I don't know how. I mean, there are people there who I think were better than us that got the boot, and we didn't. And everybody has seen this coming for about a year now, because there's been every between 6 and 9 months there's been new cuts of people. Blip saying, okay, we're gonna tighten the rules some more, kick more people out, tighten the rules again, kick more people out. We've survived each purge from Blip. But it's not the site that it used to be. It's pretty obvious that when Maker bought Blip, they just kind of wanted the exclusive talent that was signed to Blip. Like there were some contributors on Blip TV that were only on Blip TV. They had like contracts with Blip that made them exclusive, and Maker wanted them. Maker wanted them on their network, so they bought Blip to get them. And then after that, Maker really didn't care what happened to Blip. So the Blip surge has gone down, the money's back on YouTube again, and Blip is ultimately closing its doors and becoming Maker TV. And it will be a Maker-only service. And even then, not for everybody on Maker, only for like the privileged few. The top of Maker will have their videos hosted on Maker TV. So I mean, we are leaving Blip. It's not really a priority for us anymore. It's not a priority for anybody anymore. But it's not really a big deal because Blip's prominence has faded. I mean, we'll still upload to Blip, like when it's convenient. I mean, if, for example, no one in the house is using the internet, and we got a couple episodes that we haven't uploaded to Blip yet we can put out, and sure, just slap them up there, get maybe $2 off them before the service closes. It's not a big deal, but it's no longer a priority. But the reason I bring up Blip is to bring up Maker, because I do want to talk about YouTube MCNs, multi-channel networks. Because we have joined one, in fact. We haven't made any cash on our YouTube channel in about 6 months. And for the longest time, the money that we got was from Blip. In fact, during the heyday of Blip, we were getting about $100 a month. Nothing you can live off of, but it paid for props, it paid for anime, it paid for lighting equipment, it paid for pretty much everything that the show has right now, was that $100 a month. So recently we kind of had the 1-2 punch of coming to grips with the fact that we weren't having any copyright problems with YouTube, but we were placed in a non-trusted state where we had to prove that we could monetize every video, even if it was like, normally YouTube will allow you to monetize and then let people claim against it. We got put into a state where we could not monetize without proving it first. So because of that, we haven't made any money on YouTube recently. So there was the 1-2 punch of recognizing that situation as being something that we could no longer handle by ourselves, coupled with the fact that our revenue on Blip between December and January dropped from about $75 to $2. The fact that Blip is now finally just giving out its last breath. And we realized we had to, rectify the situation somehow. Cameron's first thought, because she handled most of the multi-channel network stuff that we ended up doing, her first thought was to look into joining Maker. I mean, it made sense. We were on Blip TV. We had been kept on through multiple purges. Maker was turning Blip TV into a Maker-only service. Why not try to get on Maker and be like, hey, can we still use Blip after the doors close? And that was a good idea. And then somebody from Maker said, yeah, you could do that. Somebody else from Maker said, well, we have to talk about this first, I don't know. And they kind of gave us the runaround. We did get a yes, we did get a no, we did get a lot of maybes. But it was always a, hold on, we'll get back to you. We'll look over the contract and we'll see if we can fit it in and we'll do this and that. And as we were waiting for them to make up their minds and to finally come to a decision, because we did hear pretty much every answer under the sun from them, we sort of realized that, yeah, Blip doesn't matter anymore. Assume that we went with Maker and they said, yes, you can stay on Blip. What would we actually get out of that? I mean, like I said, Blip is not the place that it used to be. There was actually a point in time, like I said before, that we actually had a bigger following on Blip than YouTube. There was actually a point in time when people visited the Blip main page, the Blip portal, and discovered new shows. And people actually got discovered through Blip. At this point, the main page hasn't been updated in 8 months. Our knee-jerk desire to go with Maker, to stay on Blip, was kind of rooted in more of a nostalgia and kind of like a past way of thinking where Blip was actually prominent and now it's not. And as they were kind of hemming and hawing over there, we realized that, yeah, it's not prominent anymore. And as soon as Blip was taken out of the equation, we didn't have any specific reason to go with Maker. No offense to them. They'll do fine without us. But with Blip out of the picture, the only thing that we needed from an MCN was to solve our non-trusted state problem. And any MCN can do that. So at that point we began looking into other networks. Heard of Fullscreen? I've heard many terrible things about Fullscreen. We all unanimously said no to that. Same with Curse, though less so. Definitely the same with Machinima. I've heard stories of people signing up with Machinima and then losing their channels, like Machinima now owns your brand. And then we started looking at Screenwave Media, And actually, when the three of us sat down to kind of cast our votes, Camera wanted to join Screenwave Media. It does have some decently big names on it. It also has a few of our internet friends on it as well. And something that Camera Lady liked was that it had its own proprietary media player. Like how Maker has Blip, Screenwave the network has Screenwave the player. Now, I want to point this out because this is how we're different from a lot of other YouTubers. We don't like having all of our eggs in one basket. We liked uploading to YouTube and to Blip, so that if one channel got fried, the other one would still exist. It's always good to have a backup. You don't want to completely depend on YouTube, even during this era of YouTube dominance. You don't want to completely depend on it, in my opinion. And I mean, when we started our channel, YouTube was kind of the place to be to see our content, and Blip was the backup. And then, as time went on, Blip became the main place to see our content, and YouTube was our backup, because that's just where the numbers and the money were at the time. Camera really wanted Screenwave because Screenwave has that player. But then Dave and I both told her, you know, if you want to diversify, not have all your eggs in one basket, this isn't the way to do it. You know, Screenwave, for as cool as I'm sure they are, if we did that, we would have our stuff on Screenwave, the media player, and then our stuff on YouTube through Screenwave. Like, you're not diversifying there. And ultimately we decided to go with the Freedom Network. Freedom is not as big as the big three of Machinima, Fullscreen, and Maker, but it's kind of structured a little bit differently. Freedom is like an overarching network that supports a bunch of smaller networks, all with their own contracts and their own rules and their own leaders, but still ultimately financially backed by Freedom. At least this is how I think it works. And the group we ended up joining was called Creator. And Creator is run by Queenie from Gamergate. And I mean, as soon as we joined Creator and Freedom, Creator, I don't exactly know how to parse the two terms. We're with both of them, but one's a subset of the other. But as soon as we joined them, our copyright issues were resolved on YouTube, which is great. That's pretty much the one thing we wanted out of a network, and we got it. And we do, of course, trust her because she's from Gamergate. And I think what was most important to me personally is that it was not a lock-in contract. We can leave their network anytime we want, giving them 30 days notice. It's not like with Maker, where Maker wanted you to stay for 2 years and then have an auto-renew contract that you had to fight your way out of. Because really, we're new to the multi-channel network thing. We're just sort of experimenting with it right now. This is no offense to Queenie or creators if she's watching this, but we don't quite know how this will play out. We're just sort of taking it one step at a time and kind of exploring the possibilities. So it being a first network, it being a trial run for us and kind of just getting used to the idea, it is nice that we can leave. We just sort of want to try this out and see how it goes, and not be hit with a gigantic penalty if we decide that MCNs just aren't our thing or whatever, you know? Basically, it's our first try and we're going it slow, you know? And I don't think that should reflect poorly on them at all. If anything, it should reflect poorly on us because we have no fucking clue what we're doing. Now, what does this joining Freedom or Creator have to do with the show? Nothing. You're still gonna get the content at the same times. They're just gonna give us a hand with some copyright issues, give us a hand with some search engine optimization stuff, and then we'll kind of see how we like the partnership and then go from there. So that's really where we stand right now. Starting a Patreon, it's got shit rewards because we're a small channel. If you want to help out, that's great. We'll expand things as we go. We'll figure out how it works as we go, and we will prove to you that your money is not being wasted. Blip TV is closing. It makes absolutely no difference to anybody at this point because Blip TV is archaic and it's going to be gone. It's a ghost town, and when it becomes Maker TV, it will be even more of a ghost town. And the market will adjust. Someone else will show up with a new video carrier and everyone's going to flock to it and it's going to be great. Maybe Daily Motion's going to rise to prominence again. Maybe Lord Cat's new video startup I hear he's doing will actually become a big thing. Who knows? Maybe Vimeo will start allowing ads, though I doubt that'll happen. However, Blip TV closing mean that we joined the Freedom multi-channel network under Queenie's Creators sub-network within Freedom. They've helped us a lot, even though it's only been like a week, and they're great, and it's not going to impede the actual progress of our show, which is what you guys care about the most. Now I do want to talk a bit about the schedule of those video game episodes. I'm sure you all have noticed it's taken us a while to get through games, and part of that is just due to Dave not playing them very well. However, a lot of that is because we just have too much on our plate. And we had this problem a year ago, where a year ago we had like 6 games on the go, and we posted one part of a game on Monday, one part of the second game on Tuesday, one part of the third game on Wednesday, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then back to Monday we'd post the second part of the first game, and then on Tuesday we'd post the second part of the second game. And we realized really quickly that was kind of ridiculous. You know, it shouldn't take 3 months to get through a game. But it did for us because we were posting one part a week. So when the summer came along, the summer of 2014, we started posting 2 videos a day, and we started posting them in large blocks. And we started getting through games that way. But then we just took on too many games. We started too many games. Games that we intended to finish. Because like, there are certain games that we're obviously not going to finish. Like, we're not going to play like a Mario Party to completion to get 100% in that game. That's ridiculous. But there are games that we do at least want to beat, if not 100%. Our internal schedule works like this. We have a rotation of 6 games. Well, 5 games now because we just finished Sonic and Knuckles. It's Rogue Legacy, then Super Mario Sunshine, then our Pokemon Soul Silver Ball Lock run, then Muramasa the Demon Blade, then Snatcher, and then Sonic and Knuckles. Now that we just finished Sonic and Knuckles, there's only 5 games in the rotation. And basically what we would do is either Camera Lady or myself, since I do some editing now, we would edit up a session of, say, Rogue Legacy. That would go out. The accompanying Rogue Legacy would be a session of Super Mario Sunshine. So that would go out. Whichever one of those sessions ended first on the release schedule, on the YouTube upload schedule, in that slot would be the session of Pokemon Soul Silver. And then whatever session ended next, whether that be Sunshine or Soul Silver, then taking that spot would be Muramasa. Then whatever session ended next, it would be Snatcher, and then Sonic, and then back to Rogue Legacy. Additionally, we have special games. Skyward Sword is one of those special games. Mario Kart, Smash, anything that requires people more than Dave or I, we consider a special game because, you know, Dave and I can film this anytime we want. We live together. We can do it every day of the week if we want. Getting other people's kind of a task sometimes, and that's not a slight to them, it's just people have lives. So whenever we get something from them, we put it up either as soon as possible, or if it's a holiday show, whenever appropriate. So these 2 factors combined, the abundance of special games that we have on the go, and the random availability of the people involved in them, along with 6 full-time games, we were posting twice a day, and we were rotating session to session, not game to game, one at a time. It was still taking a full month to get back to the next session. Like, we started posting the first session of Rogue Legacy at the beginning of January. The second session came out near the end of January. You know, that's still a bit too inconsistent for my taste, and I'm sure for some of the viewer taste as well. I'm just assuming. I mean, I wouldn't want to, not to shoot myself in the foot here, but I wouldn't want to watch a channel that kept rotating large numbers of games and only getting back to the games that I liked every once in a while. So here's what we've decided to do. The special games will stay the same, as they always were. Whenever they're available, and that's just how it has to be, because it involves people other than myself or Dave. The main games, those 5 in the rotation now that Sonic's done, we're not starting any new games until that's cut down to at least 2, preferably 1. You know, at this point, at the time of filming this, we've completed about 2/3 of Mario Sunshine, though it hasn't come out yet, but we've completed about 2/3. Muramasa is nearly complete. Snatcher's done, it just has to come out. We have to wait for the schedule to get to it, but we finished Snatcher. The 2 big ones left are Pokemon Soul Silver, which we're just barely halfway through at this point, and Rogue Legacy, which we're also just barely halfway through at this point. So, before we start any new projects, we're going to start completing some of these games. And when we get to a point where we only have, say, Rogue Legacy and Pokemon Soul Silver, because those are 2 just giant beasts of a game, at that point, maybe we'll start bringing in new games. Because, I mean, I want to start the next Banjo. I also want to start the next Sonic and kind of get that series back underway. I know Dave really wants to play Charles Barkley again, and so do I. And we have begun filming a completely new game unrelated to any old series. But again, we're not going to release it until we free up some time in the schedule, because it's kind of getting ridiculous at this point. So throughout the month of March, we're going to really try and get this stuff done. So hopefully there'll be space for new games very soon. And I mean, if he wants to play something, all you have to do is ask. We can't promise when we'll get around to it, but if we have a copy of it, sure, we'll play it. The gift rule still applies, where if somebody decides to send us a game, or maybe send us money with the express note attached saying buy this game with this money, I guess, then we will put that request at the head of the line. We will say, you know what, you just gave us something, we're gonna do this for you. You know, because you're being generous, we're gonna give you what you want. You give us an anime, we'll give you a review. It'll be the next thing we do. You give us a video game, we'll give you a Let's Play. It'll be the next thing we play. We've always wanted to reward fans that have decided to give us something. Admittedly, there haven't been many over the years, but there have been some. For example, Bible Black happened because we actually got the DVDs for Bible Black from somebody. So yeah, we did several riffs of that monstrosity because of fans. And as for upcoming schedule, you know, whether you donate or not, whether the money works out or not, whether the Freedom Network works out or not, we are going to try our very hardest for 2 video game shows a day, 1 Gamergate video a week, 2 anime reviews a month. Can't guarantee anything, but we are going to try. And again, no obligation, but the higher that Patreon number goes, the more likely we'll get it done. And that's not blackmail or me trying to be a money-grubbing jerk. That's just an economic fact. That's just how it is, you know? The show has grown, and it's grown to the point that either it needs to start funding itself again after Blip TV goes under, or we need to basically cut it out. And to all of us here, cutting it out is not an option. We love doing this. So if you're still with me, thanks for listening, and let's hope the coming months work out in all these endeavors.